In this landing page optimization and design guide, you're going to get a simple 7-point checklist to make sure your landing pages aren't leaking conversions. Hey, I'm Jason, and if you're looking for the latest in traffic and conversion strategies to grow your business online, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Now, when it comes to designing the perfect landing page, and of course, optimizing that landing page design, there are 7 key steps. Now, before we get into those 7 key steps and go through some live examples of how these can look so you can come up with your own landing page design, there's one key element to success that we need to keep at the forefront of our mind as we go through designing and optimizing our landing pages. And that is to remember that these are designed to connect with actual people. When it comes to web design and you get sucked into all of your analytics, it's really easy to forget that all of those numbers represent an actual person. So if you're going to be doing split testing, we'll get to that at the end of this training, or anything else on your landing page, when you're deciding what graphic to put on, when you're deciding whether or not landing page A, B, or C perform better, you are not just making arbitrary decisions, you should be viewing that as figuring out who your ideal customer is, and most importantly, what they actually care about. So let's go ahead, kick things off with the very first step on our checklist is making sure that your landing page does not have any external links. Great landing pages have one call to action. We'll get to how to structure that call to action and what type of information to ask for. But when it comes to a successful landing page, there should only be one thing someone can do, which is the action you want them to take. That means you don't want any external links. You don't want to be talking about other offers. You don't want to have other information that isn't relevant or doesn't absolutely need to be there. A general rule of thumb is the less you can get away with, the better on a landing page. So if you can even use something called a squeeze page where you just have a headline and a box to collect contact information, then go for it. You don't have to be super fancy. The most important part is making sure that you're connecting and communicating value to whoever you're trying to collect contact information from. And of course, when I say no links, I'm not talking about the legal, income, and privacy policy disclaimers that most advertisers force you to have at the bottom of your site. So now let's go ahead and go through our actual landing page design once we've made sure that we don't have any external links. So we'll start off with the headline, and then we'll go into the call to action. You're going to have a couple bullet points, a graphical representation of whatever you're offering, and then some credibility or social proof. So let's kick things off with the arguably most important part of your landing page, and that's going to be your headline. And all your headline needs to do is answer the question, is this for me? You want people to know that they're in the right place. And then what is this going to do for me? So we want to make sure they know they're in the right place, that this is for them. And then we want to talk about what value they're going to get as a result of entering their name and email, or just their email. So we have 2 examples here, very basic headlines that you can use for yourself. This first one is from Neil Patel, and it's for his organic growth webinar. And his headline is how to generate 195,000 visitors a month without spending $1 on ads. And this formula, how to result and then without hard part or roadblock, is something that you can use for yourself. It's a very common headline formula that is just proven to work. But all he's doing here is he's clearly stating what people are going to be able to learn how to do, get a ton of free traffic, maybe not 195,000 people on the first go, and then without advertising. So if someone is looking to use paid advertising, they know, oh, this isn't for me. I need to bounce out. And then if they are looking for free traffic, then this clearly shows that the webinar is going to deliver on what they're trying to do, get a bunch of free traffic, and they're not going to have to pay for advertising. Now, this next one is pulled out of my personal archive, and this is from when I used to be a financial advisor, and our headline reads, how a free 15-second tool let me out-earn mutual funds, index funds, and 401ks by 479% with built-in risk. And this is actually the exact same formula that Neil Patel is using. We just say with instead of without in this sentence, but we start with how to, the result, and then with or without something that would be an objection or a roadblock. In this particular instance, it's worded very strangely because we had to work our way around some legal things when it comes to being a registered investment advisor, what you can and can't say. But here, what's really important to note is we put with built-in risk protection at the end of this, because a common objection that someone who's investing for retirement would have when they see such an astronomical return would be to say, well, you're probably just buying penny stocks or something. You're probably just doing something really risky. And so to handle that objection right off the bat, let them know, hey, this isn't super risky. We included that at the end of the headline. Now, once you have your headline, the next place you want to go is your call to action. And your call to action, of course, is going to be that button where they can enter their name and email or more contact information. Now, here's a general rule of thumb. The more information you ask for, the less people who are going to enter that information. The less information you ask for, there you go, the more people you're going to get entering their contact information. Now, at the very minimum, you just want to ask for an email and maybe a name. Then at the next level, if you really need this information, we'll go through an example that asks for some of this orange information, and that is you can ask for the last name, phone number, customer type, and then in red, you ask for this information if you only absolutely need this information for some reason before you start the follow-up process. And you can always ask for this information later on in your sales cycle or lead generation warm-up. You don't have to get all the information on the very first go. Now, our example here is from Digital Marketer, and they're asking for a company name in addition to the typical name and email fields. And the most likely reason they want to do this is because they want to increase the barrier to entry of people who are entered into their funnel. So they do a tremendous amount of testing. So learning from their landing pages is definitely going to help you in your business. And if you don't have a problem of having too many people or too many unqualified people, then you can always start with just asking for the name and email. That can dramatically increase your conversion rates. Now, when it comes to your bullet points, which is the next step on our checklist here, all bullet points need to do is communicate benefits. They're answering the question, yeah, but what does this actually do for me? Like, is this really going to help? So if you think of it as the type A personality that you're talking to, where you want to be very focused on, this is all the great stuff you're going to be able to do, or you're going to learn on this free training or in this free guide, whatever you're offering, and you're not going to have to deal with XYZ. So it's a very similar what you're doing in your headline. It's just in the bullet points, you're going to expand on it a little more, but you don't want to introduce any new information. It's very easy for a bullet point to all of a sudden become an objection. So anytime you make a new claim or you say they're going to be able to do something, you want to include that without, not necessarily the exact same way, but say, hey, you know what, you're going to be able to do this, but you don't have to be XYZ in order to achieve that result. Because if you say, for instance, hey, you're going to be able to lose 10 pounds in the next 2 weeks, and then then that needs to be immediately followed up with a qualification of you don't have to go to the gym 20 hours a week, or you don't have to have already worked out a year in advance before you do this. So something where an objection isn't going to be created by a new deliverable on your free offer. So the first example we have here is from one of our old YouTube webinars, and all of the bullet points simply go through some things they're going to learn on this 60-minute training. And the second bullet point is a perfect example of handling an objection right out of the gate. So you can see here how to immediately rank your videos on the first page of YouTube and keep them there. Well, a common objection to that would be, yeah, but my channel's really small. So in parentheses, we just say, even if you have less than 10,000 subscribers. And all of a sudden that anxiety and objection goes away, where they go, oh, I can get that result even if I have a small channel. And that's the kind of thing you want to make sure that you do with your bullet points, as opposed to just saying, hey, you can rank your videos, or hey, you can lose a bunch of weight, or get this awesome result. And then you want to think about, okay, but why do people think they're not going to be able to get that result? Now, this next example we have is again from Digital Marketer, and they just have 3 bullet points. And I included this one because it proves your bullet points don't have to be super succinct. I really like this last bullet point because it shows the power of handling objections, because a 60-second blog plan could be great, but a common objection that a lot of people might have is, yeah, but I could come up with a plan, but then how do I keep the ideas flowing? And so this last one really, really harps on the fact that people are going to be able to continuously come up with ideas. And while I'm not on the digital marketer team, I would assume that the reason they gave so much space to that particular bullet point is they found that that was a really common objection with people trying to create a blog plan. And the next element of a successful landing page is making sure your graphic is very clear and represents whatever's being offered. So the first example we have here is from consulting.com, and it's a free video training helping people understand how they could become a consultant, and they also have some letters from Jeff Bezos. And so what they've done here is with the video, they didn't just put a templated icon of what a video might look like. They went out of their way to make sure that they put a graphic of a video, and the Lego blocks actually back up the message of starting from scratch, because that image implies that, hey, this is a foundation and it's just as easy as putting together some Legos. Could I be reading into this way too much, and could it have just been a coincidence? Yeah, it could have, but it's also a good example of how you can communicate and reinforce what you're saying with your copy with your images. And this next one is from ClickFunnels for a webinar that's all about how to do copywriting. Well, it's really hard to have something tangible for a training on copywriting. So here they just put together a box and what looks like a VIP card to represent a software box and VIP card to give some sort of tangible representation of what's being delivered on the webinar. And the final element on our design checklist here before we get into split testing is going to be credibility or proof. And so what you can do here is include some customer testimonials. You can include some pictures that show that you are legitimate or a real person, or you can go ahead, if you have been featured on other media platforms, you can go ahead and put those logos on your site. Now, I have two examples here for you. The first one is from a really old webinar that we did, and we went ahead and just put some customer testimonials of previous clients who'd gone through a similar service or training. So when it comes to testimonials, it doesn't necessarily have to be the exact same offer that you're making, as long as it's the same product or service at the end of the funnel. Obviously, if these were customer testimonials for YouTube ads, we probably wouldn't use them if we were trying to get new Facebook ads clients, because those would be two very different things. But it's okay if the testimonials aren't exactly the same. Now, this next one is from Billie Jean, and I really like this landing page because there is so much credibility and proof communicated extremely quickly. So we've all heard the phrase, a picture's worth 1,000 words. So at the very top, his graphical representation of the training is showing him in what looks to be a multi-million-dollar house on the beach giving a training. Now, even if that's not his full-time home, even if he's just renting it, it still exudes the fact that he's successful because he has the money to actually rent that for at least a day or two. And then the bottom two photos again reinforce that he's not just some random person on the internet talking about marketing. He has his first picture that's showing him talking in front of hundreds of people, and then he has a second picture showing that he has a large team. So it's very quickly communicated that he is legitimate. Now, the final stop on our checklist is going to be split testing, and this is going to take your landing pages to a whole nother level or absolutely destroy your chances of being successful. So let's go through the big mistakes and then the proper way to do your split testing and why you need to make big changes in your split test. So let's start off with, what on earth is a split test? All a split test is you make landing page number 1 and then you make landing page number 2, and then you split the traffic between the two of them and you see which one wins. And then let's say landing page 1 does better. Well, then you try and make another landing page that's more similar to landing page 1 than landing page 2. And that's pretty much what split testing is. The issue, though, is if you're running, a lot of people, what they do is they'll have multiple traffic sources and they'll be driving them to a landing page that they're split testing. Well, the problem with this is you're actually not split testing because you have two variables at play. You have the testing and the different traffic sources, and then you have the actual landing page itself. So you're actually winding up testing two variables. And even if you have an analytics genius on your team, I can tell you from personal experience, it is an absolute nightmare trying to connect the specific ad platform and then the specific ad to whichever variation was actually working, and then trying to make those connections across everything that you're doing. It's an absolute mess. So at the very beginning, if you're just trying to get up and running as quickly as possible, you actually just want to take all of your traffic sources and run them to one landing page. I know that sounds like sacrilege. Like, what? You're telling me not to split test? Yes, in the beginning, until you have time to create a separate landing page for each traffic source. Now, depending upon the software that you're using, typically it's pretty easy to take a landing page that you've already created and then just duplicate it and then run traffic to those. And then once you have done that, then you can get fancy and start split testing each one of those landing pages, but you'll be doing multiple split tests at once because you're going to be running a split test for each traffic source. Now, when it comes to what you should actually be doing with these split tests, you want to make sure that the split tests are really, really big. And so the best place to start is actually with the page design, so a completely different looking landing page with the exact same copy, or a different headline with the exact same design. And actually, that's probably the best place to start because typically the headline is going to make the biggest impact and difference on your conversion rates. So when it comes to creating different headlines, you want to create headline 1 and then headline 2. You really want them to be as far away as possible because if we assume that, let's say the center is going to be where that ideal headline is, that's where that 45% conversion rate is. Well, if we start over here and we find out one doesn't work, then we'll try one that's closer. And maybe we find this one doesn't work, so we go over here, and then this one doesn't work, and this is the winner. And then we go over here, and we find this one doesn't work, and this is the winner, and we get closer and closer. As opposed to, I'm gonna have headline 1 and then headline 1.1, you're gonna be making micro adjustments all the way to the center. So you're going to reach the center of what's actually going to work a lot faster the larger you make the split test. I know that kind of seems a little silly, but that's the best I could do with the graphical representation of how that might actually play out. So thank you so much for watching. I sincerely hope you got some value out of this video, and most importantly, you know what to change on your landing pages to hopefully increase your conversion rates. Go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe for more in-depth marketing strategies and tactics just like the ones covered in this video. And until the next, keep building the business you love.